Hello, good people. Welcome to another edition of C.A.P. I'm JD. I'm your host and Cultivate.
Hi, I am Erica Jackson, Jizzle, Accumulate.
I'm Chamel Jackson, Prosper. All right, so what is the buzz, y'all? We just came from almost a week ago, the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl. A lot of us probably not football, or probably not watching the game, but we definitely watching that halftime show.
Okay.
And Miss Rihanna was the halftime show. So there's so much to talk about as far as the halftime show. I hadn't been following Rihanna for a while, but when she first started out, I was all into Rihanna. So I was ready for the Umbrella song, the pun that replay, which she did not do. And I was mad about it. But she did Umbrella. She did Umbrella. But just when she first came out, I was like, okay, I was confused. I'm like, is she pregnant? Me and my sister asked the same question. Is she pregnant? Is she still got the baby weight? What's going on? But of course, we know now she was pregnant. And so that was, affected her show or what she did in the show. I wouldn't say it was bad, but it affected some of the things she did in the show. So what y'all think about the halftime show?
I know so many people have had so many mixed reviews. Some are saying she could have did more and everything, but I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. Especially with good reason, because to know it wasn't just baby weight, it's actual baby.
Yeah, it's actual baby in there.
But just to know, she is up high, on this platform and stuff. She's pregnant, she's still dancing. So with what she had to work with, I think she did really good. I thought it was a pretty good show. Now I'm really interested, because the man was watching, because it's young. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Well, first and foremost, I was watching the game because I'm a football fan, even though my team wasn't in it. And I'm a huge fan of Rihanna. When I was looking at her up there, I noticed, I was like, she had that baby a while ago. This must be what's going on with the stomach, that pouch. But then when realized later that, okay, coming to find out that she was pregnant, I'm like, can't blame ASAP, I guess, if I was in his shoes. That probably would be the same thing as well. But she did good for her to be pregnant, to be suspended up in the air like that. Had her dancers out. I mean, this is the queen of Fenty. She's a billionaire, and people gonna always have their criticisms. But I mean, it was a pretty good show considering the state of her state, her being pregnant or whatnot, to do something like that. But I ain't gonna lie, I was a little icky. I was like, I wasn't expecting her to be pregnant, but I'm happy for her because I know she's happy. She wanted to be a mother, and then she's getting that on out the way because she just had her other child, so she's making sure they are close within age and getting it out the way. So
Yeah, I watched it again. I was like, notice things I didn't notice before, because the first time I watched, I was like, okay, I was trying to figure out what was going on, like what song she gonna sing next. So the second time I watched, I'm like, oh, she was really, for her to be pregnant doing all that, I would have been scared. So I think she made history with that. Like who does that? Who performs pregnant? Like she was pregnant, not like 2 weeks pregnant, but like months pregnant at the Super Bowl performance. So I think, and that was the best reveal right there that she was pregnant. That was a huge announcement.
I would have to agree with that. Now listen, so that was Sunday night. And I understand there was another show that came on later in the week. What was that? Monday? What was that first show that came on?
Yes,
Monday night?
Lord.
Yeah, that show was my show, All American.
Oh man.
Spoiler
alert.
Yeah. And with that show, I'm a huge. It's only a few shows that I really watch because I'll be so busy through the week, and even if I can't catch it on that night, I'll go back and look at it on the streaming service. So All American, for those of y'all who may watch the show or who doesn't, the actor Taye Diggs, which everybody knows from the Best Man franchise, plays another character who I associate him with, which is Coach Billy Baker. His He coaches his son, or he did, and Spencer James, which is one of the main characters on the show. Well, they decide to kill him off mid fifth season. So then I come to find out that he wanted to exit the show, and he was okay with that exit. And I was like, because he's never had a character that happened to. So if you are a fan of the show, what do you think about that? Because it caught me off guard, because when I think of All American, besides thinking of Spencer James, Coach Billy Baker,
Right.
I've been that Coach Billy Baker when I worked in the school, and I've coached football, girls basketball. So his character was like real life, a real likable character. He had his, ins and outs like everybody do. But I just was surprised that they decide to get rid of his character in that manner.
Yeah, I before I watched it, I saw that someone posted on Facebook. She was like all tears or something about All American. I was like, oh no, what happened? I was like, was it tears of sadness or tears of joy? Like, what's going on? She said she didn't tell me what happened, but I knew based on her comment it was gonna be something sad. But I didn't think Billy was gonna die. Like, I didn't think that was gonna be what's gonna cause me to tear up. But I actually watched the episode on Valentine's Day, and I'm like, at the end, I started crying like I really knew this man. So it was so weird. It's like, and all the things that led up to that moment, it was like, this really just happened. So it's all the TV show going off the next day. I'm still thinking about it. Like,
really
I'm a grieving, mourning a actor in a TV show. I'm like, I'm mad. Like, I'm looking at what he said. Like you said, he chose it. I'm like, you chose this. What you gonna do next here? I'm thinking, look, for you best man fans out there, I'm thinking, okay, is he about to do a movie with him and Jordan getting back together? That's how he can redeem himself. So I'm like, mad. Unless he gonna do that, then I'm still mad. I'm still mad. Today, I'm mad.
It's interesting how these characters go, like in the shows that we just really, really love, because it's like, okay, wait a minute, it becomes a part of you. You become a part of that. It's like, that's my family. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
And so to see that, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Just like you said, you're in mourning. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But listen, you guys, as Jerry said, tell us what you think about this. You can comment on YouTube, you can like it, you can share it, and be sure to subscribe on YouTube as well.
But that, like I said, that was a very surprising twist. I'm a huge fan of the show. I don't know how it's going to progress from this point on. I'm still going to look at it, but it's going to be different without him on there.
It is.
But but that happens. There's been shows in the past where unexpectedly a particular star, somebody either dies or leaves, never come back, some type of twist or whatnot. But I was shocked on that one because he's such a big part of the show. So how they move forward, it's going to be very interesting to see how the longevity of the show lasts. So
that's what I was thinking about too, because how long it lasts, because there are so many shows that once that main character or the one, sometimes that's who people are looking at it for. Looking at it.
Right.
Or so they're no longer on there. How many people are still going to keep watching? Are they going to lose views? You know what I'm saying? So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward.
Right. And one of the comments my friend sent me off Twitter actually relates to what we're going to talk about today. They were saying that Spencer's dad died, then Billy died. Somebody else, it was a third person, but I can't remember. But they were making a point to say, what's up with this killing all the, black dads? And I was like, wow, I didn't think about that, because when Spencer met his dad, it wasn't long before he was gone. So now Billy gone, he didn't even get the chance to really close that chapter. Like, it was no closure for Spencer, really. Well, Billy's gone, but he left a message for him before, not knowing that this is gonna happen. But that was a good point. That leads us into what we're gonna talk about today.
So our topic today is, where is Wakanda, the state of Black America? I know it's a lot of things that are affecting the culture affecting Black people. It's a broad range of topics, but we narrowed it down to 3 specific areas, even though there are many, many areas that we could touch on. But for the sake of time, and we wanted to narrow it down to a few. But that's our topic today. Where's Wakanda, the state of Black America? Our first topic that we touching point, I should say, that we're going to address is the disparity in education with Black children learning about their culture in the school system. I'm being a former educator. Chamel's been one, as well as Erica has worked with children in her youth coaching program. How do you all feel about that?
I do think there's so much to learn about our history, African American history. And even though, back years ago, it was said that February would be the month to, focus on that. But really, we can learn about all of that all year round. So it does need to be incorporated. It needs to be a balance because we all contribute to the world in some kind of way, no matter what race we are. So there does need to be a balance of what each contribute throughout the curriculum all year round, from January to December. Just incorporate it, and how we do that. That can vary, but it needs to be done.
I'll agree with Chamel. I think you can do that in so many ways, as you just
Right.
said.
Yeah, you can.
Just incorporate it into the lesson plans. You can get more books into the schools,
Mm-hmm.
even at the beginning of the year. Have it to where all schools, not just some schools, but
Right. All schools.
are
Right.
able to learn from this, learn more about their Black culture. Because most times you hear about it just in February, and you're going to hear about the normal people. You're going to hear about Rosa Parks. You're going to hear about Martin Luther King. You're going to hear about Oprah Winfrey, Obama. Of course, since Obama has been president, you're always going to talk about that.
Right.
But it's so many different aspects to this Black culture, and our kids don't even know about it.
Right.
So being able to incorporate it into the lesson plans, if you're not able to get the books yet, but get these books because they're out there.
Right. And then, you won't have everything. We won't be able to cover everything, just like we can't cover everything on other races. But that can spark an interest for any individual to go out and seek more, because you can't get it all in the school day. You won't. But at least we can get it all throughout the year.
Exactly.
And I think that with the effort that's made by conservatives, Republicans, certain white Americans, not all, but a certain group of white Americans who are conservative and of the nature, just be real, bigots that's trying to, don't want what they call critical race theory taught in schools. It's going to take our people as a whole to fight that, not just a few select people that are doing that. Because if you have a child in school, or a niece or nephew, if you're not a parent, or even if you don't have a niece or nephew or a child in school, you were once in school.
Right.
And this is something that if it wasn't important, there wouldn't be this big effort by people in power to not include our history in the school curriculum. More so than just being slaves, because our children need to know that we were more than descendants of slaves. King Mansa Musa was the richest man to live on earth. He changed the whole economy of being over there in Africa. He threw off the whole economy of Europe when he came, and they saw this, so they plotted and schemed a way to get his riches and to conquer that land. That's something that the average Black child, unless they have a parent that instills that in them, or they go to a school that has a curriculum that infuses that. And now with these state laws by Republicans primarily, there may be a few Democrats that feel that same way. Both political parties are flawed, but they are making an effort, like the governor of Florida, to Ron DeSantis, to try to ban all this, so folks won't know. Black children won't know about their history. White children, he don't want them to feel guilty because their ancestors did some horrendous things. But that's the reality of it. But we as men and women, parents, aunts, uncles, whatever the case may be, need to push that further for our children to know this and for your grandchildren to know this, because if you don't learn from the past, it's doomed to repeat itself, and it's trying to do that now.
Now, my question though is this. So often we say that we need to do this. What kind of things can we do to help this to become a reality? I mean, one of the things is you're listening to us right now, but I think it would really be good for us to stop just talking and start doing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I even for myself, I think we just need to get more involved in the things in our community.
Especially parents, politicians.
That's going to be the key. Because the numbers gotta go up, and just getting involved in what's going on in our community and not just in our own household. And so I'm telling myself that as well, to be more involved, to see what's going on, what can I do, what's the state of this, so so we can have that view of what is going on in each race, and not just because let them know that every white person wasn't against a black person, but just a balance. Just balance is key. If we all just work together and figure out a way to present, we got to talk about stuff that was bad, and we got to talk about stuff that's good. We got to talk about all of it, because that's the whole picture. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, I think the key is not cherry picking as such as what's been going on for years and years. People cherry pick what they want to teach in the curriculum, because a lot of times before there was an influx of black teachers, which is still is a shortage of black teachers, but especially male teachers, and I understand being one before myself. The curriculum was strictly set up from a European standpoint. Like when history, only when it's February, such as it is now, shortest month of the year, you touch on a few prolific black people who are just due their recognition, but you don't touch on the other things. And then if you want to have a specified course, living here in the South, most Southern states are governed by people who mindset and ideologies are against that because of a fear of equality or equity, I should say, for people who don't look like them, people that look like us. We're just going to just be honest about the situation. And it's showing itself from Florida to Georgia to good old Texas to Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama. I mean, so I think a lot of parents got to go to the school board, even if you're not a parent, if you got a niece or a nephew, when you have the time, go to the school board meetings, find out who your representatives that came around to your church when it was time for, election, and to tell them what you really feel and to hold them accountable. That's the only way change is going to happen.
Accountability
for the students to be able to have a balance, so our children were no more than that they were once, just descendants of slaves and nothing else.
Right. Very true.
Absolutely. Remember, everyone, as you're watching, as you're commenting, as you're listening, be sure to click on the link to subscribe. Like, share it, comment. We want to hear from y'all.
So
Go ahead.
Well, the next point would be therapy, mental health within the black community, the need or the effects of therapy. Now, I myself went through therapy, but I'm gonna let you ladies explain how have you dealt with therapy, and then I come back to me.
Okay. We both all got so much to say about each topic.
We do. I think we came excited today.
Yes. It's 2023. So I first went to therapy in 2018. I worked in mental health. I was a teacher actually at a behavioral health hospital. So I was around therapists, but I never thought about going to therapy until I was going through a breakup in 2018. So I was like, I was talking to my friends and stuff like that, but I said I need something different to process this, because I was in a relationship for a long time, so it just felt it was a different breakup from other breakups. And so I said okay, I'm going to go to therapy. I don't know where it came from. I just decided I needed someone, a professional, to help me work through that. And so I ended up not really knowing, okay, my job has opportunities for me to go for free. Like, it don't even cost me. I'm thinking I got to pay. I was talking to my parents about it. I said, okay, I'm going to go through my EAP program at my job, employee assistance program. You can get like 8 to 10 sessions free on each, and they said each issue. So I could have went another 8 or 10 weeks to with a different issue, but this I just went for the breakup. And so it was one of the best decisions of my life. Like, not just for that particular issue, but I still see a therapist just to navigate through life, because life can bring so many detours. And so that you may need someone, because sometimes your friends don't want to hear you talking all the time about the same thing over and over. They may not be available. Not to say that they don't want to be there, but you just need someone that's going to be there, and also that is trained and qualified to deal with whatever your situation is. And so I'm a strong advocate for therapy, whatever it may be for you, because we cannot do things alone all the time. We have to have relationship with other people to get where we need to be.
Now I know you said you did therapy dealing with a breakup. I went through therapy in one period of my life. It was like many years ago, and it was shortly after my father's death.
Mhm.
And dealing with, the grief of having grief because
Yeah.
the passing of a loved one, and trying to go through everyday, things, especially if you're young and everything. But the interesting thing about me going through therapy is that I remember that the person that I talked to, the counselor that I talked to, a therapist, was a white woman, and great therapist, great, totally everything. But now that I've looked back on that, um, a lot of times you might not see black people, wanting to go to therapy or even being
Mhm.
therapists. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's been kind of like a taboo type thing,
Mhm.
like if I go see a therapist, if I go get counseling, something's wrong with me. So it's like this negative aspect that people have put on therapy, so they're not going. Or um black men don't want to go. I'm not going through counseling. There's nothing wrong with me
Mhm.
or whatever. But I think that lately you're starting to get more and more people starting to say, okay, yeah, I think there's no problem with going through therapy. There's no problem with talking to someone, especially when you look at the mental health capacity lately. We're hearing of so many people who have committed suicide. I think I
Mhm.
just even read just last night there was someone who committed suicide. It was a singer. I can't think of what the name was. It wasn't somebody that I'm familiar with,
Mhm.
but it's so many people these days that are committing suicide or having mental health issues, and I think that it's really starting to plague the black community just as much as anything else as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mental health is has been taboo for a long time, especially in our communities, and especially with black men. And I'm not ashamed to say I was once part of that small group before I went through therapy back in 2019. I needed to go stemming from a relationship that I thought was going to turn into marriage, and I had a lot of anger inside of me for a lot of different reasons. And I decided to check myself into therapy. But I'm gonna be honest, I decided to do that, but then at the same time, when the therapist, who's now has become a good friend and mentor of mine, because he's a pastor, we was gonna meet out for the first session, and I was thinking in my head, man, if this man is late, if he come in and start talking some nonsense, I'm getting up and leaving. I had already had it set in my mind that I was honestly I was trying to give myself an out, and I'm usually a positive person, but I was on one that day. But once I met him, we sat down, and he started asking me questions about my childhood, and we got to the root of what was fueling that anger, that disappointment, and it was profound because I'm thinking to myself like, man, how did this man just dissect all that? But it was needed. And the next few months that I went to therapy, I learned a lot, not only about myself, but how to compartmentalize my emotions in a lot of different ways that I didn't at first. And I'm grateful for that. So now I'm an advocate to tell any brother or woman, period, about if you need therapy, to talk to somebody. True enough, we have our faith, but just like God has physical doctors for us to go to the hospital to see, you have those people who can help you mentally sort out what's going on with you. Because one thing about it is that therapist is non-biased. They don't know you.
Right.
As opposed to you telling everything to a friend or a family member who, not to say that they will, but sometimes they will be kind of biased because they know you.
Right.
So it is very much needed in our community, especially now with everything that continues to happen, even on into 2023. The killings in our communities by people that look like us, the unarmed killings by cops, the racism that's still running rampant that some people try to deny is there, the inequality of economics and everything that's going on in our country right now. And a lot of people are just day to day, they're holding stuff in. And human nature says you can only hold something in for so long. Pressure does two things. It busts pipes or it makes diamonds. In this case, it's going to bust pipes, and somebody's going to react in a way that's detrimental to themselves or to those around them. So mental health is definitely needed. And if you need to seek mental health, seek counseling, I would say do it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't let no one else talk you out of it, because, you got to, if your mind is not right, you're going to do, I say it like this, acronym for T, your thoughts, emotions, and actions. If you spill the tea, your thoughts affect your emotions, and your emotions will affect your actions.
You're getting deep.
Yeah, all the brain drops. But you mentioned something, Eric, about grief, and it reminded me when I was going through therapy, I didn't realize grief. That's a whole nother topic. But grief can also occur. It's just a loss of something. It doesn't have to be a person. So when I was going through therapy, I realized, okay, my reaction to losing someone from a relationship ending was giving off certain effects. So just to know the signs behind all of it, not to, so we won't think, okay, am I crazy for feeling this way? Am I crazy for thinking this way? No, I'm not. This is normal. This is normal.
Right.
And so I don't think a lot of people talk about the normal stuff that's supposed to happen, because when you lose something, whether it been a job, anything you lose, if it's important to you and you love it, that was a loss. It's a loss, and that hurts. And so I think that needs to be talked about under mental health. Grieving certain things and what your mind goes through those different changes because of that loss.
I think it's interesting that you said that, the part of, am I crazy? What's
That's what
wrong
I
with
was
me?
saying to myself.
And a lot of people, they take that and they're thinking like, okay, they're thinking these things about themselves. And it's like, so what are other people going to think?
Yeah.
What if somebody knows I went out for therapy and stuff? What are they going to say about me? This taboo. What are they going to say?
Right.
So it's like you start to shy away from this. And, you know, in that, you keep on going through these thoughts, you keep on having these issues, and you're worried about what other people are going to say, and you do nothing about it. And then sometimes it gets to be too late. And when therapy could have been the main thing that could have helped some of these people who end up committing suicide.
Right. Very true. Very true.
And those points that you ladies touched on are definitely spot on. And the third area that we was going to touch on is about, and it ties right into that, domestic violence. Now, there's all different types of violences in the affecting the black community, but this is something that sometimes seems taboo, but it happens so much just here in Memphis, but all across the country. Um, and I think it stems from the lack of conflict resolution skills among men and women. But before I touch on that, what do you all think about that?
Well, I want to tie that into something you said earlier because I work around where I'm closely connected to people who experience that. So being in social service, so you hear that a lot. And so, but you mentioned when you went to therapy, you talked about things in your childhood. So that can spread off into your adulthood if it's not resolved in your things that happen in your childhood can come to your adulthood. And so a lot of times when you have these situations, a lot of times we need to go back to childhood to see, okay, what happened that led me here, whether you're the victim or whether you are the abuser. Because I've talked to people that have been in these situations, and they talked about how their parents were. Like it was like it was a cycle, generational thing. So those things they start long ago, and we got to deal with it. And so it all ties together. So, but still, there should be some type of positive, effective conflict resolution, which you got to learn. You got to learn how to communicate. You got to learn how to say, okay, I'm angry. Well, why are you angry? Instead of, taking other ways to do that. And when I worked around youth, we talked about anger. It's not wrong to be angry, but the problem is why we got to figure out why are you angry and what are you doing to deal with that anger.
It's interesting that we're talking about this. When I have mentioned that I do stage plays, and I did Detours 1 in 2019. Detours 1 was about a series of detours that the character Danny goes through. But one of the friends that she has is Stephanie. And Stephanie goes through some serious detours, but her main detour, she's dealing with domestic violence. So in Detours 1, we're actually able to actually seriously go through this topic a lot. But in doing Detours 1, I was talking to a lot of the characters, and somehow I end up writing these things that people who are in this have actually either dealt with this or know somebody who has. And I think that that's like really, really interesting how, and almost, well, not almost, but sad too, that so many people are dealing with domestic violence, and they're looking at, just like we were talking about mental health, they're looking at um, the person who's going through it getting counseling or needing therapy and trying to get away. But you rarely hear about, okay, let's help these people deal with what's the issue here. What's the problem, before it gets too bad. And then it's interesting because in Detours 2, we dealt with Stephanie, but in Detours 2, we were able to deal with the abuser, Lance. So being able, and I just didn't even think about it till we were just now talking. So we were able to deal with
both
the
parties.
person who was abused and the person who was doing the abusing.
Right.
Had we been able to deal with the matter of, wow, Stephanie was like right there and Lance is right there and helping them to deal with this issue together. Because you look at Lance and he's had things in his childhood, just like you just said. And Stephanie has had things with that she grew up with nobody loving her and low self-esteem. So actually dealing with these issues and what's making you get to this point. We're always just saying, oh, he's wrong. He just needs to go to jail. And that's true. He's wrong. He does need to go to jail, but you also have to deal with the issue as well.
Right.
Well,
That's good. It's powerful.
like I said, with the domestic violence piece, we see that a lot, not only in the news but just out in public. Hell, even where I reside at, coming in one evening a few months ago from from work, and there was a couple out there arguing. Okay, but I noticed how this happens. It would happen like seem like clockwork. It would happen every other weekend. And thankfully they no longer live over there. Because I was like, man, I'm tired of this Jody and Yvette type mess, this from Baby Boy, you know what I'm saying? But honestly, be honest though, it is something that has spiraled out of control, because you got to be able to deal with your emotions as a man and as a woman, and not let it get to that point where you turn to physical violence. And it starts young, because when I worked in the school system as a behavior specialist, I would see how boys and girls, especially in middle school and even in high school, how they would react to conflict. And some of them, the first thing they want to go to, I'll knock you upside your head. Like, hold up. You can't.
Right.
Well, I said, you can't put your hands. Did they put that? No, but they said this and made me mad. I'm like, well, that's not how it works. Because if someone if you're not defending yourself because someone is trying to harm you, you can't just do that just because you're angry.
Right.
But then they have seen either their mother, their father, auntie, or uncle do this, and now they're doing the same thing, and no one is ever showing them the proper way of conflict resolution. We all get mad. We all get angry. It's human nature, but you cannot allow that anger to cause you to want to do bodily harm to somebody and don't think there's repercussions for that.
Right.
And in our culture, it's happening a lot, to the point where, when someone cannot take rejection, they turn to violence, kill the mother of their child, or or vice versa. And it's happening too frequently, and there was telltale signs there. Anytime somebody, won't allow you to be around your friends or family without feeling some kind of way, feeling jealous or anything, those are little telltale signs. Now, it happens with women, with men, but it happens on the flip side as well. But regardless of who the abuser is, that needs to stop, because the children are looking at that. And children look at what you do, not what you say.
Yeah, they are.
You know what I'm saying? And so, we all know about, the cultural movie, What's Love Got to Do with It?
Yes.
And, looking at that, it was times in there that made you kind of, like, man, wow, Ike was crazy. I don't know what. But when you look at it from the bigger scope, when you're not, because it's not funny, but it was parts in there. It's like, man, he was really gone on some things, and Tina took a lot. But this type of stuff really happens out here, and it doesn't end to where someone walks away. Sometimes it ends to where someone is gone and the other person is in prison.
Right.
So if you see that within your family or within your friends, you got to try to intervene or encourage them to get away from it, because it usually doesn't turn out for the good if it continues.
Right. And I, like when you say it starts young, you was telling the kids when you was working with, I used to tell the kids I would work with, I said, when you get my age, I never tell them my age, but I would say it's gonna always be, it's gonna always be somebody to make you angry. I would always stress it. I'm like, there are people that make me angry. I'm angry at somebody right now. I would say that. I'm like, you can't hit everybody that make you angry. When you get on the job, I would always say this. When you get on the job, there is definitely gonna be. It could be the best job ever, but there's gonna be somebody that make you angry. You can't go around hitting people because guess what? You're gonna get fired. Then you gonna have no money. Then you're gonna be broke.
And
So
you may go to jail.
and you may go to jail. And now, so what now? What did that serve? Nothing. So I always, even now, I tell people that I work with, adults, young adults, you know, if you have an issue with a colleague or coworker, well, you got to be careful about dressing them, but you definitely don't want to just go off. You do want to tell someone in authority, and if that doesn't work, go to who's over them. But, you know, going around hitting people, shooting people is not going to be the answer because you can't do that everywhere you go.
That's that conflict resolution.
Yes, that's got to be taught from toddler to adulthood, just all the way around.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've seen these like little video and stuff, and the little girl just walks up and push the girl down. So yeah, from
toddler to toddler. Yeah,
started to toddlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no such thing as reasoning with a bully, and abuser is another form of a bully. You have to either get from around them, or in most cases, you're gonna have to fight back in some form or fashion, whether it means leaving or actually fighting back to keep you from being bodily harmed. But there's no reasoning with the bully. There's no speaking peace to a maniac, for the most part. So that's just something that our people in our communities have to do better because it's running rampant. We see it all the time. So
before we end too, I want to make sure that I say this about two of the things that we talked about. If you are dealing with any kind of depression, if you are dealing with any kind of hurt, any kind of grief, no, please seek help. Speak to someone. If you are dealing with any type of domestic violence, please seek help. Speak to someone. I just want to make sure that I say that anyone who's listening, it's not okay. And it is okay to go to therapy. Please speak to someone before it's too late.
And that is definitely needed, Erica. I'm glad that you said that. So recapping what we spoke about the disparity in education with our children, also about therapy that's needed for mental health, and with domestic violence conflict resolution. So we have to do better as a community. Amen. And I feel with much faith without works is dead. So we not only have to pray, but we got to act on it. So that leads us to our next segment, which is something we want to do that's a little different and fun and lighthearted. It's called Pick One.
Pick one.
Pick one. So I started off since I said it.
Okay.
So pick one. Old school Pizza Hut buffet back in the day, or CC's Pizza. You only can pick one.
Let me tell you, okay? I'm not going to tell my age. Just like Chamel just said, I'm not telling my age, okay? But let me tell you, back in the day, Pizza Hut buffet, that was so good. I'm talking like, you know, the time when they had the red glasses, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
See, you know what I'm talking about, Jerry. Pizza Hut buffet was so good. I'm not knocking CC's because that's good and cheap. But Pizza Hut buffet, give 12 people together, even I'm by myself. I'm going to go there, I'm going to eat some pizza. And yes, I'm thin, but I can eat. Okay? I love to eat. And that pizza buffet was the business.
Yeah, I'm going with Pizza Hut. I've been to CC's Pizza, but I only went because I took my nephews there, and I ain't been since. And so I'm rocking with Pizza Hut. I still like the personal pan pizza. I think they still sell them. I think they do. Okay, so some of the buildings are still there, but they not open. But the building is just there. So every time I pass it, I'm like, oh man, that was the old Pizza Hut. It just brings back a lot of memories. So it's Pizza Hut for me.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's the old school Pizza Hut, because Pizza Hut now is okay, but everything is different nowadays. But the old school Pizza Hut, the pizza selections, the salads, the desserts, everything. CC's was cool, but CC's is like You know, when you trying to take a field trip of kids and you trying to get the most for your
Yeah,
money
yes,
or
yeah.
whatnot. But yeah, old school pizza buffet back in the day from Pizza Hut takes that top pick for me.
Okay, I got one. So I've been doing this challenge on social media. It's a music challenge. They do it in February, and one of the posts you had to do, I think it was yesterday or the day before, you had to pick your favorite '80s track, and I was like, man, I like the '90s R&B, but the '80s R&B is cool too. So I posted the Gap Band, outstanding. And I have a whole station on Pandora for 80s R&B. So I want to know, what y'all think, 80s R&B or 90s R&B?
Why you want to go and
So
do
I'm
it like
going there.
that?
I'm going there because you got 80s. I said Michael came on the scene, Janet came on the scene, and that's this week. I'm going with the 80s. This week, this week.
Okay, y'all.
Come on with it.
So she said 80s and the 90s. Now I was in that 80s era, born in, I'm not saying when I was born.
You almost did.
But in the 90s though, my favorite group came. Now I was big Michael Jackson fan. Janet Jackson, all of that. But one of my favorite groups came onto the scene, me and group. Man, I'm talking about Jodeci. So yeah, for right now, I'm gonna go with the 90s.
You going to the 90s today?
I'm proud of you know what I'm saying?
Oh, all right, Jerry.
Well, I mean, anybody that knows me know I love my music, and 70s soul, 80s, 90s. But being that I was growing up in the 90s, as getting ready to enter into young manhood, the soundtrack of my life has to come from the R&B of the 90s because, like Erica was saying, I was a huge fan of Jodeci, Mint Condition, Guy, of course, New Edition, which they crossed the 80s as well as the 90s. But it's something about that 90s R&B. So I would have to rank. I would go with the 90s, but how I would rank this, I would rank 90s R&B, and then 70s soul / 80s R&B is number 2 for me because I listen to all three. But that 90s R&B, you can go from my group Jodeci and Mint Condition to and Boys to Men to the later 90s. You got them 4 Jagged Boys, Jagged Edge.
Yeah, I was just listening to them.
Drew Hill, 112. And then that's the male R&B. The female groups, you had SWV, TLC, In Vogue, Escape. So it was a time of, the 90s is, yeah, man, that's the soundtrack. that's the soundtrack for me anyway. You know what I'm saying? So I would have to give the edge to the 90s R&B, but I do like my 80s R&B and my 70s soul. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with one more before we get to the next thing. And I'm going to say, since we had food, one of my favorite things, music, another of my favorite things. So then we'll go to another one of my favorite things, the movies.
Oh.
So I'm going to say pick one. Love and Basketball.
Oh, man.
Or Brown Sugar. I, of course, am going with Brown Sugar. That's my movie. I love it. Yeah, I love that movie. So, what you say, guys?
I'm going.
go ahead.
I'm going with my boy Tay Diggs and Sanaa Lathan. We're going to get it with the Brown Sugar Records. Yes.
Yeah. Did you fall in love with hip hop?
When did you fall in love with hip hop?
I guess that'll make 3 for 3 because I do like Love and Basketball, but Brown Sugar, that that dynamic with Tay and Sanaa and their characters in the movie, I can relate to that to a certain extent. I had a very good friend growing up that we was always close. She's married now and everything, but we was always close, and we had a mutual love for not only music, but other things. But we was just always cool. But that movie right there was, yeah. And you infuse hip hop, which is something I like.
Yes.
With with the ins and outs of people, how they're there for one another, and just situations that happened within the movie that had me laughing, like when he called his wife out with the other guy, and we're celebrating our divorce. So, but that Brown Sugar is definitely a cult classic. Falls in line with, of course, one of my favorites, of course, which is The Best Man and
Yeah.
The Wood, Love Jones, and all of that. So, but Love and Basketball is great too. But I would have to go concur with Brown Sugar. When did you first fall in love with hip hop?
Now, listen, you guys that are listening, that are watching, we want your answers in the comments with these pick ones.
Yes.
We want your answers in the comments.
Yes.
We want to hear from you. What's your favorite between the two movies? What's your favorite, Pizza Hut or CC's? What's your favorite within the 80s and 90s?
Right.
And make sure while you're there, while you're listening,
Yes, like.
while you're watching, make sure you're liking, make sure you're commenting, and make sure you're what?
Subscribing.
There we go.
All right. So, okay. Here we have another discussion. Our banana peel for today. We got Miss Nikki coming from the Fraser area in Memphis, Tennessee. Shout out to Fraser. All right. She says, this is what she says. My fiance and I broke up for 3 weeks back in October. We reconciled back over the holidays. Our wedding is a month away. He finds out that he may have gotten another woman pregnant during that break. What should I do? So we got some Gabrielle Union, Dwayne Wade situations going on. Let me go ahead and talk about this. So, Nikki from Fraser. I definitely think you should put a pause on it just to see, okay, should we go ahead and get married? How is this going to play out if the woman is pregnant? And then how's that going to look for us when we get married? So there's so many things to look at. Like, why did you sleep with this woman while we was on break? Like, that for 3 weeks? That's a short time. So we got to process this whole situation. So I would say pause on the wedding and just talk this thing out and see what's going to go from there.
This is what I say, especially after we just got through talking about these topics, you know what I'm saying? So first of all, Nikki, don't go beat him down, okay? Don't go beat her down either, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, okay.
No domestic violence, okay?
Right,
None of that. Number 2, this is what you need to do. Like Chamel said, put a pause on it. Get some counseling, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, mental health,
Talk to a therapist, you know what I'm saying? We want, because this can be a lot on you, Nikki. We don't want you to have any, mental issues or anything.
Right.
So deal with that and speak to a therapist.
Okay.
JD.
This whole
That's the female's point of
situation,
view.
you and your fiance broke up 3 weeks ago, back in October of last year, I'm assuming, since you're writing this. Definitely have to talk to someone besides, of course, talking with him, talking to a therapist, because of the nature. We know you being a woman, that you all as women your emotions run differently than our emotions. But before talking to a therapist, getting a clear understanding on what made that transpire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not defending him, and I'm not finna just jump down the story either, even though that's smooth. That's a situation I wouldn't want to be in. But you got to know what caused him to feel the need for that to happen. Now, we know situations come about. Once again, I'm not trying to make any excuses, but you can get inebriated with liquor or whatever the case may have been. But definitely you all need to decide going forward if this can be worked out. And then you said he may have, meaning that the woman, if she is pregnant, there's a possibility that it could be his and it could not be. I guess the first question and foremost you need to know is, I mean, did you not use protection? That's what's going in my mind, because if he said he may have got another woman pregnant, that kind of insinuates that, bruh, you didn't use any protection, you know, and that opens up a whole nother bag, like just
Oh yeah.
out here going, like the vegetables going raw. It's not a smart thing to do, but I would say that definitely you have to talk to a counselor and just decide if this is if you can, even though you all were not together, so technically it's not cheating, but in the reality, it's you know that can bring up some trust issues down the road if you all
Right.
just decide to move forward. But technically,
You keep saying technically, Erica.
he wasn't cheating, and I'm not excusing this now, but he wasn't cheating, but his actions could prove to be detrimental
Right.
to a potential union with you all.
That's true.
That's how I would
That's
put
true.
that there.
Right.
So he has some type of soul searching to do, but you all definitely might need to talk to someone, maybe push the wedding back to C.
Mm-hmm.
But if you choose to go forward with it and it turns out that it's not, then that's great. That's one less thing to have to deal with.
Right.
But making sure that nothing like that comes about in the future. But if it turns out that it is, and you decide to go through with the wedding, well, you have to deal with it accordingly from that point on, knowing that you may possibly be a stepmother to a child that, so, and it's not the child's fault because the child didn't actually be here.
Mm-hmm.
But so those are things that you have to look at.
Correct.
But once again, definitely talk to a counselor, and then you all need to figure out if you all going to push the wedding back or if you're going to move forward. And I'm praying that that's not the case. If you decide to move forward, that's not it, because that opens up a whole can of worms that's hard to put back in.
Right.
Right. So before we go to our next segment, let me end on this note. Let me also say, with this banana peel question, I think it's good that you two are dealing with this now. That even your fiance Nikki mentioned it now before you actually get married, before any of this transpires, because so often you have people who go ahead and get married, and then you don't say anything, and this just blows up, and then it's the cause for many divorces. It's the call for so many different things that we deal with. So it's good that you're able to go ahead and deal with this now. So I wish you guys the best of luck in this, praying for you. And now it's time for our segment where we get a chance to come to you from our own different perspectives with the different things that we do. I, of course, have the detour moment. Now, with the detour moment today, I want to tell you guys about one of my favorite movies, okay? One of my favorite movies. Don't y'all laugh at me. Don't be putting nothing in the comments about she crazy. But I love The Wiz, okay? I am a big fan of The Wiz. I love the dancing. Michael Jackson in it, big Michael Jackson fan. I love the singing, but it's so many messages in The Wiz. And you have Dorothy, who's going through these series of detours with her friends, the Scarecrow, who needs a brain, the Lion, who needs courage, and our poor little Tin Man, who's brokenhearted from a breakup. Okay, so in dealing with this, they go through these series of detours. They kill Eveline the witch. They deal with the poison poppies, and they get down to the end, and they're like, what are we going to do now? I don't have my brain. I never got the courage. and I'll never be able to get my heart. And Dorothy says something that was so important. She said, but you don't need them now because you've had them all along. She reminds the Scarecrow that he was the one who came up with the idea of how to kill Eveline the witch. She reminds the lion that he did not give up even when they strung him up by his tail. And she tells the Tin Man that he has more heart than anybody she's ever known. So the moral of all of that is, no matter what detours you go through on this journey, remember, keep right on going because you have what you need inside of you to make it. And you can and you will.
That's good. Thank you. All right. Before I get into my forget all that moment, I want to make sure you all know the email to send your banana peel questions to is the CAP podcast 3 at gmail.com. The CAP podcast 3 at gmail.com. Send your questions there for our banana peel segment. So today's forget all that moment is just let therapy give what it's going to give. We talked about therapy earlier with mental health. So let therapy give what it's supposed to give. And what I mean by that is when I walked into therapy years ago, I didn't quite know what to expect. I didn't know I was going to have to, rip the Band-Aid off, uncover things. I had to go way back to elementary days and to get to why I was feeling certain ways about the breakup. But let therapy give what it's supposed to give, because if not, it's gonna come out in other ways. So it does hurt. I'm not gonna lie, it definitely hurts to peel back all those layers of hurt that may have happened years ago. But just remember, it's gonna be worth it. I'm speaking from experience, not just for something I read, but from experience. When you begin to peel back those areas and deal with them. Because there's a quote, I think it says, you can't heal what you won't reveal. So allow those things to be revealed, and then eventually you look back and say, okay, I'm so glad I allowed that to come out in therapy, and allow that therapist to help you deal with that, because that's what they're there for. So let therapy give what it is supposed to give.
Okay. You ladies made two great points on your segment. So I'm going to wrap this up with the brain drop of the day. And the brain drop is, don't sell your soul just to buy some attention. I'm going to say that again. Don't sell your soul just to buy some attention. We live in a world now where people will do any and everything just to be accepted, whether it's on social media or in real life. They would sell themselves short to get approval of someone that they want, either their affection or they want their time, they want funding, whatever the case may be. And when you do that, you are not being your true self, and it could be detrimental in the long run to your emotional health, as we talked about, or even your physical health. So what you don't want to do is do anything like that just to gain some sort of affection or acceptance by individuals who probably more likely really don't care about you to begin with. They may like what you can do for them, but not necessarily care about who you are and what you have to give. So don't sell your soul just to buy some attention. That is the brain drop of the day. We want to thank you all for listening to another episode of this podcast. Definitely subscribe, and share. Can't say that enough. And also, any banana peel questions, we welcome them. Please send them to us at the CAP podcast 3 at gmail.com. Thank you again for tuning in. This is JD with the C, Cultivate.
This is Jizzle with the A, Accumulate.
And this is Chamel with the P, Prosper.
Thank you all. See you next episode.
Next episode. Bye.
Bye.